Right. So continuing our discussion about hematinics, I was talking to you about how iron is used in case of treating anemia, and what are the side effects as well as the drug interactions that can occur. Sorry, the toxicity that can occur with iron, and how do you treat it? Now, coming to the next two molecules or next two compounds that are used in anemia to treat anemia, essentially vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin, and folic acid. These two are fairly important for the body. These two are water-soluble vitamins, and both of them are B complex vitamins that are responsible for DNA synthesis. Essentially, they take part in the process of DNA synthesis. Um, this is evident by deficiency of vitamin B12 and folic acid, as in patients who have deficiency of these two vitamins. उनके अंदर DNA synthesis will become impaired. There will be abnormal maturation of RBC and other rapidly dividing cells. So as a result, the patient will develop something called megaloblastic anemia. Okay? Because of deficiency of these two, patients generally develop megaloblastic anemia. And in this, essentially what happens is there are red cell precursors in the blood instead of red blood cells directly, and red blood cell precursors in the bone marrow. So as a result, these two are called maturation factors. Vitamin B12 and folic acid, both of them together, they are termed as maturation factors because they are responsible for the final maturation of your RBCs and other rapidly dividing cells as well. Now, as such, you give the supplementation of these two in case of deficiency, manifestation of deficiencies that will occur. Normally, patients will present with glossitis, their tongue will be inflamed, stomatitis, malabsorption. You might have neurological manifestations can also occur because of B12 and folic acid deficiency. Anyway, we'll get into detail of each of them. First, talking about B12 itself, this is synthesized by microorganisms. So, one second. हाँ जी. Now, vitamin B12, also called cyanocobalamin, is very rich in liver, fish, egg yolk, meat, cheese, pulses. All of those are good sources of vitamin B12. And B12 itself is called extrinsic factor. It is also called cyanocobalamin, but it is also called extrinsic factor. If you remember, you have something called an intrinsic factor present in your stomach along with acid. Intrinsic factor will get protein rata that is produced in your stomach, and with the help of that intrinsic factor, this B12 is essentially carried into your body. Okay, there's a binding protein called transcobalamin, and through that transcobalamin, this B12 enters into your blood and finally is stored in your liver. Okay, liver is the storage base of vitamin B12. Now, as such, it will perform a lot of metabolic functions. It will take part in DNA synthesis. It takes part as in metabolic reactions as coenzymes mainly. So, coenzyme is another molecule that is helping an enzyme perform its function properly. And as such, the requirement for B12 in adults is about 1 to 3 microgram per day. In pregnant and lactating women, it is about 3 to 5. ठीक है. If you talk about daily requirement for that matter, folic acid का जो है vitamin requirement is about 50 to 100 micrograms per day in normal adults. This is adult. PLN में pregnant and lactating women के अंदर 200 to 400. So you can see there is significant um, increased demand for both folic acid and vitamin B12 in case in case of pregnant and lactating women. The problem is that almost 50% of the drug that you take, uh, will be will be lost. Essentially, 50% of ingested drug is generally lost. That is why double the amount is generally recommended. Double the dietary amount. अगर आप supplementation से दे रहे हैं, for example, you are giving tablets or injections, then double the normal dose, daily required dose is given to a patient. That will be the normal dose that is given. So जो RDA रहता, the required daily intake and required daily requirement, essentially let's suppose that is 1 to 3 micrograms for vitamin B12, right? So if you're giving as a synthetic drug, If you're giving it externally, you will give about 2 to 6 micrograms, because almost 30%, almost 50% is lost. You are trying to make it up. So that is why double dose is given generally, not more than double, but double. In case of deficiency of B12, obviously there will be anemia. There can be certain other causes as well for vitamin B12 deficiency. Let's suppose there is a patient who has undergone gastrectomy. The stomach, there has been several surgeries occurred in their GIT, on their GIT, and sections of their GIT has been removed. Happens in certain patients. उनके अंदर, because that, you know, acid नहीं है, intrinsic factor नहीं है, it will not be absorbed. Chronic gastritis, if a patient has, if there is tapeworm, fish tapeworm infestation, in that as well, vitamin B12, essentially the helminth will be consuming vitamin B12 instead of you consuming vitamin B12. Optineuron and cyanocobalamin is another name for. Optineuron is a drug that is a multivitamin. Cyanocobalamin is another name for vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is also called extrinsic factor. Optineuron is a drug, synthetic drug, that is not vitamin B12 per se. It has other things as well, not just vitamin B12. I hope that clears it out. Right. Uh, as I was saying, now uh, symptoms of deficiency of vitamin B12 generally appear in the form of abnormal maturation of RBCs. So RBC maturation is affected, is abnormal. They will not grow out properly, hence leading to megaloblastic anemia. The patient will have weakness, lethargy. These are all symptoms of anemia. Weakness. If you think about it, it is pretty logical. If the oxygen carrying capacity of blood has decreased, it will cause weakness. It will cause lethargy. It might cause palpitation, excessive load on your heart leading to palpitation, vertigo in certain patients. Certain neurological manifestations might occur as well. For example, paresthesia of hands and feet, weakness in hands and feet. You will not be able to exert complete force in your hands and feet. Ataxia might occur in some patients. You'll not be able to walk properly. Loss of memory, confusion. In rare cases, especially severe cases, very, very severe form of vitamin B12 deficiency, the patient might have hallucination and psychosis. So psychiatric symptoms might develop unke andar. So anyway, now coming to the preparations that are given, normally one of the most famous ones or the most commonly used ones is cyanocobalamin itself. You get 100 microgram per ml vial. You give IM, microgram per ml. Right. This is an injection that is generally given either intramuscular or you give a deep subcutaneous infection, some subcutaneous injection. Sorry, hypersensitivity reaction can occur with this. So give a small amount. Check if the patient is having any problem. If it is, use a different drug. अगर नहीं है तो continue with the drug. You can give other agents as well. You can give multivitamin. Like आप oral multivitamin भी दे सकते हैं, with or without intrinsic factor. So sometimes what happens is patients, if they are having gastrointestinal problems, specifically stomach, in their stomach gastritis or something like that, intrinsic factor might not be present in those patients, which is leading to decreased absorption of vitamin B12. So when you give supplementation with vitamin B12, you can give it with intrinsic factor so that absorption is proper, so on and so forth. There are other variants as well where you can give. आप इसको vitamin B12 deficiency में दे सकते हो, obviously pernicious anemia and megaloblastic anemia में directly दे सकते हैं आप. You can use prophylactically every day as well. Vitamin B12 can be used every day, 3 to 10 micrograms. um, Dose of 3 to 10 micrograms every day can be used prophylactically to avoid any problems as such. So in the form of your multivitamin, generally speaking, most vitamins are not, you don't need to supplement most vitamins except vitamin D and maybe a few others, because if your diet is well rounded and if you're eating all the fruits and vegetables as much as possible, just make sure that your diet is very colorful. The more colorful it is, आप like खाने में color मिला के नहीं खाना. I mean to say that you are eating your spectrum of eating vegetables and all is quite wide. So you're eating green leafy vegetables, like tomatoes and etc etc, so that you are getting as many vitamins and minerals as possible, and eat fruits. In that scenario you will not need supplementation as much. Maybe here and there vitamin D is kind of important to everyone, youngsters, older people, everyone, because humans used to stay out for a very long period of time over the centuries. What happened is, work started changing in such a way that humans started staying indoors more and more, and the degree to which they are staying out, the time for which they are staying out has become very limited. So the exposure to sunlight has also decreased. Vitamin D is something that is mainly formed when cholesterol gets hit on by UV light. So अगर आपका UV light exposure नहीं हुआ, if you're not exposed to UV light enough, you will not have enough amount of vitamin D being produced. So it is better to take supplementation of vitamin D. Now again, consult your nutritionist or doctor before just randomly taking any X number of tablets, because that can be harmful. But in general, a single tablet of vitamin D can be helpful every now and then. There's that. You can give B12 in neuropathies as well. Sometimes there are neuropathies that are created due to drugs. So to counter those neuropathies, you can give, it can be diseases as well, to counter the neuralgia and the trigeminal neuralgia है, MS है, multiple sclerosis, psychiatric disorders है, general weakness है, neuropathies है, उसके अंदर you can use vitamin B12. Now coming to the next one, that is folic acid. This is very richly available in green leafy vegetables, liver, yeast, egg. You'll find it a little bit in milk as well, to some, in some fruits as well. Okay. One thing that you have to keep in mind is folic acid gets destroyed if it is cooked for a very long period of time, and if it is cooked with spices. Okay, very strong spices, and cooking for longer durations generally destroys folic acid. Now, the absorption of folic acid will take place from your duodenum and jejunum, transported into blood by active or passive transport, and later on it is stored in your liver. So B12 and folic acid, both of them will be stored in liver. Mainly this folic acid gets converted into dihydrofolic acid. This DFA gets converted into tetrahydrofolic acid. Okay, that further has other effects. Tetrahydrofolic acid will act as a coenzyme in one carbon transfer reactions and various metabolic reactions, as well as DNA synthesis. So metabolic reactions. This fellow is taking part in metabolic. Just writing it as RX reactions plus DNA synthesis. So very important in its own way. In case of deficiency, generally it occurs due to malabsorption. It can also be due to diseases of small intestine, where absorption is getting affected, or it could be drug induced as well. Drug induced folic acid malabsorption is very common. So drugs like phenytoin, phenobarbital, oral contraceptives, methotrexate, trimethoprim, a lot of them we've already discussed. So all of these can cause folic acid deficiency, and it is better to give supplementation of folic acid deficiency when you're giving such drugs to the patient. And the requirement will generally be higher in people who are either in their growth stage, so growing children, pregnant and lactating women. उनके अंदर deficiency होने का chance ज़्यादा रहता, because their requirement is higher. If they take normal, let's suppose when they were uh, let's suppose non-pregnant. Imagine there is a woman who is a lady who is non-pregnant, and later on she gets pregnant. If she's consuming the normal amount of folic acid that she used to do before getting pregnant, that is, that will generally lead to deficiency, because when they are pregnant, their requirement increases. So normal level bhi kam ho jata. You have to give higher amounts, even in growing children. Very important. And if the patient is having folic acid deficiency, it will manifest as megaloblastic anemia. The patient will have glossitis, diarrhea, plus weakness. You can give oral folic acid supplements. Take it 2 to 5 mg per day. You combine it with vitamin B12 and give them. Generally, megaloblastic anemia is due to folate as well as B12 deficiency. तो दोनों को मिला के दे सकते हैं आप. ठीक है. You can give IM as well in certain scenarios. Intramuscular दे सकते हैं. You can use it prophylactically in pregnant women, in lactating women. You can use them prophylactically in infancy, and whenever requirement is very high, you use about 500 mg capsules, tablets per day, oral per day. Single tablet per day should be enough. Now, coming to the next type of agent. So, these were the three main hematinics. There's something also called hematopoietic growth factors. Hematopoietic growth factors, sorry. Now, these are synthetic chemicals that are used to artificially induce hemopoiesis. Now, these are not generally used because of a lot of problems that they create, because you are artificially giving hormones to regulate erythropoiesis, to increase erythropoiesis. Okay? Only in certain very specific conditions you'll use this. Now, these growth factors will mainly include erythropoietin itself, synthetic erythropoietin. So erythropoietin is normally secreted in your body. It is produced by your kidney in response to hypoxia and anemia, and it will bind to erythropoietin receptors on your red cell progenitor cells, and it will stimulate red cell production. That is how erythropoietin normally works. It will go to red cell progenitor cells which are present in your bone marrow, and it will stimulate them to produce more RBCs. Now you can use these this synthetic erythropoietin in case of सिग्निफिकेंट एनीमिया, malignancies, कैंसर में बहुत यूज करते हैं, बोन मैरो डिसऑर्डर्स में यूज करते हैं. इफ अ पेशेंट इज हैविंग अनीमिया ड्यू टू CRF, क्रॉनिक रीनल फेलियर की वजह से भी अनीमिया हो सकता है, बिकॉज किडनी इज नॉट वर्किंग प्रॉपर्ली एंड एरिथ्रोपोइटिन इज नॉट सेक्रेटेड. यू गेट द पिक्चर. सो इन दैट सिनेरियो यू आर सप्लीमेंटिंग एरिथ्रोपोइटिन फ्रॉम आउटसाइड. क्रॉनिक इन्फ्लेमेशन है, या समटाइम्स एड्स पेशेंट्स विल हैव अनीमिया, तो उनके अंदर भी एरिथ्रोपोइटिन दे सकते हैं. बट नॉर्मली व्हाट हैपेंस इज व्हेन यू एक्सटर्नली इंड्यूस an erythropoietin, when you externally give erythropoietin, it can cause hypertension, it can cause thrombosis, clot formation, thrombosis, and sometimes very, very severe allergic reactions. So that is the caveat with this. Okay. You can use erythropoietin in case of iron overload as well. If the patient is having iron overload, jab de sakte aap. Then, other than this, there's something called myeloid growth factors. These are again artificial chemicals that are given, hematopoietic factors here, ye bhi. Myeloid growth factors. Um, Generally, these will include your granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factors. So granulocyte and macrophage colonies जो रहते हैं आपके बोन मैरो में, उनको स्टिमुलेट करने के लिए, उनके प्रोडक्शन क्रिएट करने के लिए these factors are given. Hence their name is GMCSF, granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factor, GMCSF. That will be the code. You might also get single only granulocyte colony stimulating factor, और macrophage colony stimulating factor. MCSF और GCSF भी मिलते हैं. They are part of recombinant therapy. You will get two specific drugs in this: sargramostim and filgrastim. Specifically, these are given in cancers. Okay, when myeloid progenitor cells need proliferation and they are not working, जब देते cancer chemotherapy, aplastic anemia, AIDS, patients who have congenital neutropenia, or AIDS patients who have neutropenia, very, very special conditions में देते, normally नहीं देते, because they have a lot of side effects. They can cause bone pain, fever, arthralgia, myalgia, dyspnea, बहुत सारे problems associated रहते. You can also give thrombopoietin. There's something called thrombopoietin. Cancer patients में देते generally, who are undergoing cancer chemotherapy. Severe thrombocytopenia occurs in those patients. So to produce platelets, you will give thrombopoietin. Those are all different sort of hematinics. Okay. Now, with that we have completed your cardiology. Now there is one, the next unit, that is unit 8, that will include hormones, different types of hormones, and the drugs that are used as hormone replacement therapy and so on and so forth. We'll start that. In between there is a unit 7. Upon unit 6 ka khatam kare, which is your cardiovascular therapy. Unit 7 is vitamins and minerals, vitamins, vaccines, sera. I will do that later. A very small and very simple topic. We'll finish this thing, unit 8 first, then we'll go to those. You only have like 4 topics out of this. This is the biggest one, unit 8. Unit 7, unit 9, and unit 10 are very very small. Generally 1.5 week mein pura khatam kar de sakte thi, no? This might take about a week, maybe a little more. Now today I'll only give you the introduction of that. There is an introductory topic in unit 8, which is anabolic steroids. Very small topic. But from tomorrow onwards, I'll start proper HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Now, before I start that, I would sincerely request all of you to study menstrual cycle, to study the effects of estrogen and progesterone on the female reproductive system and on the body in general, because you will see that we are essentially giving external progesterone, external estrogen, and a lot of those effects will become much more easier to understand if you understand the basic physiology, that underlying physiology that is occurring. So if you understand what is normally occurring, what is the normal role of estrogen, what is the normal role of progesterone, how do they work, where do they work, what do they do, so on and so forth. If they are working on uterus, what do they do? If they are working on ovary, what do they do individually? कौन से phases में release होते, who is responsible for their release, how are they progressing pregnancy, and how are they progressing the menstrual cycle, so on and so forth. I would suggest that you read it once. Kal I'll start that. Today we'll only discuss about anabolic steroids. Now anabolic steroids, these essentially are drugs that will enhance protein synthesis. Okay. They will increase protein synthesis, they will increase muscle mass, but if you give high enough doses, okay, what will happen is their relative anabolic activity is lost. So instead of seeing positive results, you'll start seeing negative results. Instead of if you don't use it in a normal dose, even with a normal dose, you'll already have a lot of problems with them, because you are externally inducing this thing, externally inducing certain hormones, specifically testosterone. बट if you go beyond a point, generally माइक्रोग्राम्स में देते हैं, इसकी डोज बहुत छोटी रहती, एनाबॉलिक स्टेरॉइड्स की नैनोग्राम्स माइक्रोग्राम्स में देते हैं. Those doses, if you go on generally higher doses, their relative activity, the positive effect will be gone completely. Now ये कब यूज कर सकते हैं? You can use it therapeutically in catabolic states. So extremely old people, or suppose senile osteoporosis हो रहा, osteoporosis induced by age. So because of advanced age, they are developing osteoporosis, or they are having any muscle wasting diseases, catabolic states essentially, where their body is in general catabolism. These hormones are very helpful in those patients, because this will externally induce anabolism in them, and they'll be able to maintain their body mass, they'll be able to maintain their health in general. Now these are also subject to abuse. These are generally abused in athletes. Now you see them various forms of anabolic steroids being taken in various sports altogether. You see it in football, in cricket, football, I mean soccer, not the American football. To a certain extent, actually, it is used in American football as well. You see it a lot of powerlifting, this thing, you'll see it in various locations. Very common in bodybuilding circuits. So there is that. Now it has abuse potential, very very common abuse potential. It will not cause addiction per se, but it will have a psychological effect, in the sense that after seeing the results, the athlete will continue, keep on taking the drug over a period of years. So you will be able to see whether or not they are on steroids. It is generally hard to assume until unless you have a very expert eye, but you will be able to see whether or not they have abused anabolic steroids if you see their blood picture. Right. Now, the main adverse effects that will occur when you take these anabolic steroids, especially in women, will be masculinization, and acne. So there is generally a misconception among women, girls, and generally female community that a lot of them who are uninformed, if they start working out and if they start handling weights and things like that, they'll start looking like men, and that is not true. Because by your basic physiology, if you understand, there is very very negligible amount of testosterone present in women. So until and unless they are externally taking testosterone, they will never be able to achieve the same muscular mass. They'll be able to achieve good muscular mass. I'm not telling they'll be weak by any scenario. I'm telling they'll never become like those huge bodybuilders and things like that. For that, it takes years of dedication, and it will take a lot of testosterone for them. Until unless they're externally injecting testosterone into their body, they'll not be able to do so. Okay, like becoming proper big bulky people. So masculinization and acne will occur in women. It can cause hepatotoxicity, very very significant problem. Liver will be toast. It can increase libido. It can also, especially if you give it in young boys, it will cause precocious puberty. Puberty will appear earlier than it normally does. Precocious puberty in young boys. Okay. Because it has a suppressive effect on spermatogenesis, it can cause infertility. डू नॉट कंफ्यूज, लिबिडो बड़ा बोले तो फर्टिलिटी पे इफेक्ट होना जरूरी नहीं है. ठीक है. बिकॉज ऑफ सप्रेशन ऑफ स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस जनरली इट कैन लीड टू इनफर्टिलिटी. Now, generally speaking, other than catabolic state, senile osteoporosis, and other than abuse, you'll also find certain individuals, generally men, who will have to take what you call anabolic steroids. So, for example, there are people. Let's suppose they are younger people, but they have lower amounts of testosterone. Like naturally produced testosterone is very low, and it is adversely affecting their health. Just like how estrogen is very important for a lady to function properly, a lot of important functions in their body is governed by estrogen. The same way, a lot of important functions in a man is governed by their testosterone levels. So if testosterone levels are low, it can create problems. So वैसे conditions में low doses of testosterone will help. They will not start becoming bodybuilder type of physique and all of that, but this now again depends on how much they are taking. But generally therapeutic doses taken very very small doses, in nanograms and all, will help them. So lead a general healthy life. So basic situations, maybe it is indicated, other than really old people, it can be used in younger people, but very carefully and in very calculated doses for a specific purpose, wherein you're just trying to rectify your health. So things like that. It is completely contraindicated in pregnancy. All anabolic steroids are completely contraindicated in pregnancy, should not be given altogether, because it will interfere with the function of estrogen and progesterone, which are very important. Should not be given in infants and children. Renal, cardiac, or liver disease. These are contraindications. Okay? In case of cancer as well, carcinoma of prostate and breast, especially in men. ठीक है. प्रोस्टेट कार्सिनोमा और ब्रेस्ट कार्सिनोमा इन मेन, उनके अंदर नहीं देना ये anabolic steroids, contraindicated. So that is about anabolic steroids, and we'll end the class here for now. I would strongly suggest now that you have half an hour more and you have the rest of the day. You'll have a few more classes, but read about menstruation, read about the effects of estrogen and progesterone on the body in general. Okay? Functions of estrogen and progesterone. It will become much more easier for you to understand tomorrow's class.